to the same pattern of increased income for the village and also for the although the performance is varies from one village to another, but in general the pattern shows a very positive outcome from the Suriati program. The second, the third observation involving the looking into the local organizational structure, how local organization respond to CBRT activity, how they transform. Is it the same or is it changing? And based on the data from the interview from the sembang-sembang with the all three CBRT coordinator, it seems that CBRT in all three villages started small, manageable and run by on voluntary basis by the local leaders. But then when they receive more tourists and their product has been marketed and been with more people come, and the activity becoming more complex, and they think that work on voluntary is not the way. So they have to start. So the second phase is to establish strategic partnership. So this involves universities when researchers come and do their research, advice on how to develop business model for Kampong state, and also NGOs offering their service to through voluntary basis and to improve the facility, also government. But out of this important for stakeholders in partnership, government still play a major role because they provide funding even for the university lecturer project using the government funding to conduct their research. And also tourism industry more involved in promotional and marketing of the product. I also observe that there is a changing. This one in the case of the near to PMC. So at the beginning, at the initial stage, the community rely on the tour agent. They bring encourage. They bring tourists from Singapore or Kuala Lumpur to Perhentian Island. And in their program, they stop for a while in Pulau Ketapang, and so the tourists can see the village and see what are the activities. But later on, because the people start to train the youngsters who just graduate from the higher level, high education, they don't want to work in the city, they come back to their village and the village community train them. So in the end, they are capable to set up their in-house tour agent and they tap directly to market. So but this time they still keep full of tour agent to maintain the consistent the number of tourists coming to their village. Suriati also bring a positive sign of revitalizing local social culture. This is what I observe when the young people have been given chance to continue the tradition. When I visit Singapore, you can see that it's a good future for Wayang Kulit for the Barat to be continued by the younger generation. But in other places like Holi Bina and Thompson, they have the younger generation to continue, but they need a proper trainer. Maybe the culture department need to provide the right person to train the youngsters. So this is another picture that continuity of the traditional co-racing activities. And also the Suriati also helps the community give us this stimulus for conservation of natural resources. So because of tourists coming to the village, this one in Singapore, so the CBRT organizer discussed with the paddy farmers. Please do not fertilize or your paddy at this moment, this time, so that they can maintain the fish population in the area because they want to maintain the hand fishing tradition. So tourists can see the activity when they visit the village. That one is the first part is the observation and what I see the transformation, physical, economic, social culture, and also environmental natural resources. And second part is I develop a set of indicators and I try to test this selected indicator based on what information that they have in the village. So as a result, for economic, successful uptake in economic practices, it showed moderate success level for Sabak village and also for Kuala Medan with both 40 and 70 of an overall achievement. This is considered as a positive result because none of the respondents in Kampong and Kuala Medan indicate a low level of sustainability to their economic stability. Whereas in social cultural practices have shown a high success level for Kampong and Kuala Medan. Meanwhile, respondents for example have given a fair share of 50% of moderate and highly sustainable for evaluation of local social cultural practices. However, all respondents in all three villages agree that no level of social cultural practices, and this can be viewed as a potential success of Suriati in transforming the villages' attitude towards conservation of their culture. And for the environmental practices, the Sabak and Kuala Medan shown a high success level because these two villages are located in quite a remote area and very rich in terms of natural resources. Whereas Kampong is a semi-urban area and showing lack of natural resources to be offered. However, this is showing a potential for improvement in terms of how they should manage their environment and through beautification of their village for tourism purposes. As a conclusion, sustainable security is a strategy for sustainable community livelihood transformation by empowering local and stakeholders in developing their economic leadership, protecting valuable natural resources and socio-cultural values. The development of sustainable security, however, is not without its challenges. As interest in sustainable development security program increases, the issues related with desirable form of tourism and who should get involved in the decision-making process become important. And results from this study are expected to benefit local hosts. Hence, it will improve their understanding about CPRT and also the role and functions of indicators in assessing the performance of CPRT. Thank you.
What I want to do in the next 2 minutes is to at least look through the presentation and also some of the comments I've made, because I didn't manage to get all the papers about 2 o'clock last night. So I just went through quickly this morning. That's why I missed the flight in the morning. Now, I think there are a number of things that I'm doing here. Number one is because I've been doing a lot of work in the first, from 79 to 85, a lot of work on rural development and rural social change. Yeah? So I'm trying to reflect, number one, to what extent the analytical tools have really changed in the way we see rural development and rural cultivation. Yeah? Because I think, because the most important thing that I can see now in all the papers is not so much struggling, but also everyone is trying to establish. This is where what I'm trying to do is a lot closer to what Maznah has been doing. That we are looking at our tools. We're not simply studying the rural area. We're not simply studying processes, but we are also studying the tools that we use, whether it's still relevant or not. Because I don't see any Marxist analysis now. During my time, if you don't have the word Marx, they will come after you. But not anymore now. They have to do with middle class and all those nice things. Okay? So, you can see, if you go through the literature from 1990 onwards, there's a clear change from 1990 onward. The rural sector, originally seen simply as agriculture or agricultural, rural sector development is always seen as unidirectional development, but now I think a lot more people would like to see rural sector with multiple identities. It's not really only agriculture. It may be once the side of agriculture. And maybe they go back to Kebun, agriculture, but that notion of Kebun is not the agriculture that we know before. So that's what I mean, that the rural sector has had new identities imbued into their activities. And also, the rural sector is heterogeneous and multidimensional. It's not only from, say, from agriculture to industrialization and so on. Because you can see, in the economic term, you have the primary sector, you have the secondary sector, and you have the tertiary sector. You have all this in the rural sector. You have all this in the rural development context. It's no more as if you go to the city, you look for the factories. You can find this factory, oil plant factory. You find it there. You find it in the rural sector. So you would imagine all the three sectoral divisions in the economics are found in the rural sector. It's not identified with urban and rural anymore. So that's why I said it's heterogeneous and multidimensional. So how do you read rural state? Because this is the task that is before us all the time. How do we make sense of this transformation? How do you want to read? If you want to read in the whole set of categories, because there are still people now using the whole set of categories to get through their theses and PhDs. So it is inevitable when you do and you use the whole set, the dominance of categories such as farm work, informal market network, formal and formal sector, non-formal. So you can see this term is coming up again and again without being interrogated. You don't ask what this term means then and now. You don't. You just accept that everyone knows this term. We take that for granted. But actually, because the empirical data that we find is not speaking to the term that we are using, that's why Eric has to redefine this Kebun. Because this Kebun is not the Kebun that I know before. Because I mean, what he's telling me is what most people from Malaysia will experience. Parents who has, this is what happened in all the papers. The subtext within the papers is called social mobility. It's mentioned everyone is moving. How, when, why, whether from town, from urban to rural, rural to urban, different age group, age cohort. So there's a continuous literal physical movement, but also social movement. In the sense of occupation, in the sense of jobs, in the sense of income, and so on and so forth. So, in fact, I would argue there is a reenactment of extended family as a result of this blurring of the urban rural. ATM machine with highways, especially in Semenanjung, and also in Java, there's a lot of highways now. And with internet, smartphone, that all relationships is being rekindled and revived. And a lot of young parents actually send their children to their grandmothers to be babysitted by their grandmothers. Poor grandmothers. Non-stop activity. Yeah. So I think this is interesting things that, of course, the papers today don't touch all this, but I'm trying to give you a broader picture of how we can look at rural transformation. So you can see rural transformation, as Manga said, is diversified into agriculture, service, and in the last paper you mentioned how tourism has become part and parcel of activities of the rural sector. But there is also the whole factor that there is uneven development in the rural sector. I mean, across the heritage center in Perak, in Pasisala, you can see one is very actively oriented towards promoting tourism in some sense. But in the other sense, the abandoned land. So there is this contradiction and difficulties. This has to be explained also. You can't just cherry pick all the nice experiment and case studies and study them. I think this is also the challenge for those who are interested in that. And then bigger epistemological issue raised by Maznah also that I found very interesting is what I call the old social science and the new social science. The new social science, the geographers should know, because they are doing it now. It's developed by this guy by the name of Trimberg. He has been doing this, a lot of his work, not only in Denmark and Sweden, but also in England. It's quite interesting. His notion of social science is quite different from the standard social science that we teach in the universities here. So, but I don't have any example except one PhD from UM is now being examined, is trying to apply this new social science. But for me, as an anthropologist, it's not new social science. It's probably called grounded theory. Yeah? So this is the other way of looking at it. So it is interesting how the rural transformation put into question bigger issues and bigger things in social science. Not simply about rural, but also how do we perceive society which includes rural, rather than see it as separate or in a binary opposition to urban. So I think we see that in the bigger sense, then the issue is not simply about rural and urban anymore. I think it blurs. And this is what we call a social urban, the rural and the social urban. Now, again, the challenge is not so much the theory and the concept itself. When we do our research in rural area, what choices can we make when we do this research? We have some in the proposal, some not in the proposal, some you are facing, you face them in the field, like our two friends, one in Sabak Bernam and one in Kampong in Bandan and Ranong and Parah. When you come to those villages, you are looking at different things than you imagine. This is how do you confront it? You come with this prefabricated, ready-made analytical tools, top-down, authority-defined proposition and deductive approach. You want to develop a grounded theory. You want to combine deductive and inductive. You want to have this phonetic approach or applied phronesis. All these are questions which you don't ask this question, but when you analyze, but then too late, the data is collected. You've got all the data based on something else. Now you want to use phonetic approach. It's impossible because they started with different assumptions. So I think this is what we have to look at before we look at studies rural transformation. Yeah? And finally, I have some comments relating to the papers. In the light of all these general comments that I have, it's quite clear what I'm trying to raise here is not much different what Maznah was trying to do just now, to look at how do we redefine the taken for granted, the nostalgic Kampong, and all those pyramid movies that we keep on churning and playing all the time to relive these experiences. To what extent then we de-pyramidize our experience? I think this is a big challenge. Because otherwise, it's always that little coconut tree in the house and him singing under there. And the most important part is how do we get out? Like, for example, I have Ibrahim and Khairul. It is interesting for me. These are both what I call plan change, a result of plan change. Rural development as a result of 5-year plan change, the local level. But these are very selected cases. And to what extent these cases actually bring benefit to a lot of people? I think this is also a question we have to raise. Because we recognize the fact of uneven development. Are we choosing the best? Are we putting our money on the good ones and not on the bad ones? Betting on the strong few and not on the weak many. So I think this is also relates to the choice of the research that we want to do. And I can see that Eric, in some sense, when he described this Kebun, it reminds me many Australians having the summer home, of beach houses. They don't have trees around the beach, but they go to the beach after they see. So these guys is a middle class phenomenon. To what extent this is only urban and rural? It's also a lifestyle. I think a lifestyle is a result of having cash, funds, Then you have to tap into what happened in Amanah Saham. So all these are connected financial structures that support this. I bet you he's a pensioner. And he has an extra fund that he got after 55 years of work, or 60 years, depending when he retired. And then he invested, because that 100,000 is part of his benefit. So you can see how the cycle is money coming back from CSR. And this is where the subtext is always about social mobility. So the final point that I want to raise is, what is the value of value? I mean, in the case of in Central Delta, I can see that the notion of the religious value, the religious community in the Kampong is more important than the organic rice. The organic rice brings together people who have been actually collectively supporting of one another. They could bring anything. They could bring the Russo, they could bring anything, because they have a strong, almost an organic community too, let's say. So never underrate this cultural, quote-unquote, values and notions that have been there in the village that people use, that people refer to, and hold on to, not only a survival mechanism, but also to advance them. So I think these are some of the points that I have raised, and I will give these points to everyone who is interested, and I hope, and now I would like to invite questions. Anyone wants to offer some questions or ask some questions? We have only 5 more minutes here. Any question? No question. Or everyone is going for tea. Yes, this is one of the, I won't call it Jurassic, but I'm an original pioneers of the rural development.
Thank you. I just want one comment. I think what everyone wanted to portray and reflect on changes that are happening in the countryside. Very interesting. For the Sophia, where the urban, urban are now very visible in the countryside. Then you have tourist industries, like smack in the middle of the village, modern houses, and so on and so forth. I think underlying this is that it seems to me this way that you were discussing on it. It is there is a romantic idea of the village. I'm not quite sure if there was such a romanticized version of the village. I think at least when I was very actively involved in rural studies, I think as Shamsul himself said earlier, there was a lot of discussions about class and all that. So I'm not quite sure where this is coming from. And I think the other important point that I think that needs to get into the picture is history. And history is very important, and I think we need to see why are the changes taking place, and what has made that possible. What was there crisis of some kind, or I think there were some very important things and at least from my point of view, I think basically that crisis in the countryside, this crisis is very much related to the problems of small holders. So even if you look at Felda, for instance, Vista, it actually depends on small holders. Actually, the small holders that they are pumping their money into, the small holders are not really working, but they're old. And so there's a lot of deterioration of rural assets on the one hand. So that brings in a lot of things that explains why these new things are happening. Hey, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. A short one and quick one, because I have to be away with beautiful certificates. You can come here. Come.
economically conservative too. But in contrast, in developing or emerging economies, rural areas tend to favor governments who are very or rather socialistic in their economic policy. So if that is so, then it didn't change much then. If you think about it that way.
Okay, there's a panel for next year. But now I have to invite Pastor Ibrahim. Thank you very much. Holi, where are you? Well done. Well, the last one was the SPN, I know. Yeah, Eric, you should get the biggest one because you got the organizer. Finally, Harold. Okay. Thank you to everyone, and tea break is ready. And see you for the next session. Thank you. Tomorrow, then. Yeah.